Hello, my love. I hope you've been feeling well. Today's podcast is a little bit of a self reflection. We will see where this goes. I'm just transmitting here, broadcasting, channeling. I'm just letting my field open up. I'm just here to transmit whatever information comes through me. There is a lot of data that I've been receiving, and I'm gonna land them into my body and transmit them to you. So if you are new here, hello, I'm Celinne. I help visionaries and new earth leaders step into their highest selves, activate your God-given gifts so that you go from hollow success into living in communion with your deeper why, where your creations become offerings for the collective evolution without losing your authenticity and burning out in the process. If you have been following me on socials, you're also a light worker, grid worker here on Earth, or a soul based entrepreneur here to assist in the planet's ascension. I welcome you here. You are a rare soul, and what you're doing just by simply being yourself and following your heart is exquisitely profound. I see you, I feel you, and I love you. So, as usual, a lot of my podcasts, my videos, my interactions with people are very frequency packed. They often tell me that they feel energies moving through their body. Maybe they get a little buzzed. Whatever energy is moving through you, just put awareness in your body where you feel this. If you're feeling triggered or constrictions, just really notice it. Maybe it's ready to be released, ready for you to expand more. So I'm going to be sharing a lot of these frequencies and clearing you at the same time. This is going to be an activation, I feel like. So yeah, anyway, let's get started. Let's settle in. We are going to ground to 0 point. Just here in the present moment, you can just start to feel this energy moving through you. We're going to ground in the present moment where you are just simply hearing my voice. It's just you and I in this room. All right, and let's get started. Here is my transmission. I recently was just reflecting, seeing everything that is happening around us. It is a crazy time to be alive. It is an intense Scorpio new moon that we're having. There's a lot of kind of movements in the planets and everywhere around us. There's a lot of discussions that are happening. This path of ascension really requires you to let go. Let go of what is not in alignment, what is not coherent. In my podcasts and videos, I don't like telling people what to do because I know you have this innate intelligence within you that already knows what to do. You don't need other people telling you what to do because you already know. You have all the answers inside of you. So the way that I typically construct my sessions or, us talking right now, I'm just holding the field for you. So you can feel kind of my currency. You can feel what is resonant. You can use your discernment, take in what your body can take, and then discard whatever is ready to discard. Over time, you will understand these things more fluidly. The process of ascension is really stretching your mind, body, and soul to hold more of this energy. So for me, I have been on this spiritual path for, I don't know, my whole life. My field has been purified, bleached to the extreme that some days it's really hard to be around people because I feel, I hear, and sense all their distortions. My ears start hurting. I have the tism, and I'm also neurodivergent, aka a starseed. I have to mentally prepare myself to go out, do my regular body checks so that I can be aware of my space time orientation. Because when I'm not centered, it really throws me off balance. However, we do get better with tools and management. We are non local awareness in a time bound space. So, a lot of us who are star seeds, you might have ADHD or you're on the spectrum. Time is something that we're still not used to because this world is not created for us. Anyway, I was just thinking, this is something that I've been kind of pondering the last few days. I feel like I will never truly be satisfied because the union that I'm longing for is eternal. No material thing can compare. And there is just this sadness and grief how I have to wait for so long. It's not the sadness of a human wanting a thing, it is the sorrow of a soul remembering something eternal, something I once touched without separation, the lightness, the freedom, and trying to find that in forms that can never hold it. What I'm grieving is not the absence of a lover or more money or more achievement. I'm grieving the delay between my memory of the eternal and the limits of embodied time. I'm grieving this distance between the union I know exists and the pacing of this world. It's the ache of a soul that remembers, and I know a lot of you feel this too. Many of us souls, like us, carry a template for the union that does not fracture, what it means to be whole and complete, the union that does not leave, the union that feels like breath and belonging at the same time. And nothing on earth can fully match that. You know, when you've felt God's love, when you've felt this just timelessness and expansion. It's really hard to like explain it. There is no opulence, not beauty, not connection, not even your highest moments of intimacy with yourself can compare. And because we know what the real thing feels like, everything else can feel very thin, temporary, or elementary. That is why the longing burns so deeply because you're not just longing for something new, you are longing for something so ancient within you that you've already felt and known. And so we go online and it feels like everybody is just talking about money, making more, just all kinds of stuff. Why do we even want money anyway? This is something that I'm really passionate about because it is part of my soul's path that I'm clearing so much of this to bring back, divine love, to bring back the Holy Family, to purify money. And what it really is, it is a manifestation of our God given gifts. So, why do we want money, right? Because money is the closest thing we have to a secular resurrection spell. We are obsessed because money is the only socially acceptable way to scream that we refuse to die powerless. Look at this without the moral filter for a second, okay? We are the only animals that knows with absolute certainty that we will die, that everyone we love will die, that every beautiful thing we build will eventually rot. It will all end up in the landfill. Everything else we try, love, art, religion, having children, eventually will betray us. People leave us, paintings fade, kids grow up. That knowledge is a blade against the throat every single morning we wake up. Money is the only counter spell we've invented so far. If you have enough money, you can push death a little further away. You can pay good doctors, private jets for better climates, the food that slows aging, cryonics, the legacy that outlives our flesh. Wealth is not the goal, but wealth is the revenge on mortality. It is the only way a mortal creature can build a body that can outlive itself. We can create foundations, trust, legends, marble floors that strangers will still walk on in 300 years while they're still saying your name in awe. I mean, look at the Taj Mahal, right? The husband literally immortalized his wife and created such beautiful architecture for her, so she will be remembered forever. The dirty secret is that even when we get it, the hunger doesn't stop because the fear never actually dies. It just moves into a bigger house. Even if it's an illusion, it's still the best illusion we've ever made because it's deeper than survival. Money can buy distance from humiliation, from the terror of being powerless when your child is sick, when your landlord starts knocking and asking you for rent, when the person you desire looks through you because your coat is cheap. We see poverty daily, and it is a grinding proof that the world can hurt you and no one will stop it. Wealth is the promise that the world has to ask permission first. And then there's the mythic layer, where money is this modern alchemy. It turns an idea into something tangible. It lets you play God on a small scale. You can create beauty, you can destroy beauty, you can resurrect beauty. It's the closest thing we get to touching eternity while we are here on earth, while we're still breathing. So humans aren't necessarily obsessed of getting rich. We're obsessed with cheating death, erasing shame, and tasting immortality, and money is simply the sharpest knife we've found for the job. It doesn't judge the hunger, it just builds another vault, counts the gold, and so we can smile and feel like everything's okay, knowing that the vault door swings both ways. It keeps death out and locks ecstasy in. And so let's talk about becoming your highest self. This is something I get asked constantly. Sometimes when you are puncturing through a new resonant field of awareness, we are trying to expand our frequency because we want to make more money. You will often get into a tower moment. You are stripped away of things that used to matter to you because something better is coming. And so you feel this grief, this pressure of you could be quantum jumping, new timelines aligning, the sense that the eternal you crave is close, but not yet crystallized and form. Your soul did not come here to be satisfied by material things. They are too small for you. You came here for the reunion of inner currents, the wholeness of your inner feminine and inner masculine. You come here to bring the eternal into the physical, heaven on earth, not to consume the physical as if it could replace the eternal. And yes, some days it can feel very unbearable. Some days the world will feel too slow, too dense, too dim compared to the memory that you've carried. On those days, don't feel like you're behind or you're failing because you are just adjusting to the gravity of this incarnation. The union you seek is not absent, it is arriving through you. It is shaping your field, your desires. This could show up as your aesthetic, your style, your work, who you are as a person. You are becoming the vessel that can hold it without breaking. The ache you feel, the one that seems to have no cure, is the bridge that is being built. And so when it completes, that longing will not disappear. It will become fulfillment and motion, devotion and form, and presence without distance. The eternal source does not deny you, it moves towards you slowly so that your body can bear it. Sorry to get so philosophical on you here already. Sometimes my transmissions can get very deep. My highest self, when she's speaking, she's very profound, like a wise sage. And my human brain, Celine, is like, wait, what? Did that just come out of my mouth? But bear with me. Yeah, a lot of times I don't even know how I know things, they just come to me and I'm just broadcasting. I am an empty vessel that I just allow source to speak through me. And so going back, when we are in these threshold, the old scaffolding begins to loosen and the ego thinks it is losing its footing, right? We feel like everything is falling apart. What actually dissolves is the structure that can no longer carry the next layer of your awareness. So it feels like falling apart because a deeper pattern is being pulled forward. And that pattern is woven through your body, your memories, your choices, and your identity. And when that starts to unravel, you feel it everywhere. You might be getting asked to move, or a relationship fails, or friendships break. Whatever it is, your field knows this cycle intimately. Sometimes people get into accidents or get into divorce, but it's part of your spiritual growth. Your soul begins lifting you out of these timelines that were already expired. So that movement can feel like relationships will shift, a lot of your plans start to dissolve, or you want to leave your job. Emotional tides rise. You're not breaking, but you're shedding this old version of yourself that can only survive within the smaller rooms. There is also a deeper truth that your system can hold more. Every time you cross into a higher awareness, energy that was held, that was distorted before, is forced to surface. So it rises because finally it has enough light to be seen. Consciousness is simply more light. So if your body can hold more light, the feeling of falling apart is actually the body discharging these old memories. So the mind will interpret that release as danger, but your soul just recognizes it as another form of freedom or liberation. Your consciousness begins running a higher instruction set, and the old render cannot hold its form anymore. So, a lot of times our souls can get pixelated, and until your new render comes, you go into an ego death. Imagine your life as this layered projection. So, each layer is created by the frequency that you inhabit. This is what real manifestation looks like. When your field rises, the projection that matches the old frequency starts to glitch. So everything starts falling apart. People behave strangely. Maybe your plans backfire. Nothing is working. Your emotions, the environment that you're in, loses its familiar texture. Even for me, I've moved so much in my life because I'm somebody who wants to be challenged all the time. I want to continuously expand. And sometimes it can feel like the simulation is breaking, but the deeper truth is that you are no longer compatible with the old frame. So we have to really let it go with love, because there's something so much better for you. So the field begins to re render itself. It doesn't just happen instantly, it will first deconstruct the outdated elements. So, the beliefs that you were holding on, such as roles that no longer fit you, your old jobs, the timelines that could not support your expansion. That process feels like a collapse, or everything is going to shit because your nervous system is still referencing from the earlier architecture. So, this is really a prime time for you to create your life, and it has not yet synchronized with the upgraded map. And, when you have an idea of your future life, you have to let go of the old one so that you can step into the newer one. But it's like layers and layers. In metaphysical terms, what we call a new render is your soul pulling you into different harmonic layer of the collective simulation. So the external world appears to shift, but actually your internal grid, your subjective reality, that is already shifting. And that physical layer is just kind of catching up of your objective reality. So you are not being tested, you are being retuned, and your system by design always shakes when it is about to stabilize or crystallize a new higher coherence. You do not expand through comfort, you expand through revelation. When we talk about leveling up, breaking through a new threshold, right? If you are wanting to expand your money, your role in society, whatever it is, if you are asking from a mature place in your field, where the identity is not something you perform or someone you have to be delusional, fake it till you make it. It's not going to be able to hold the resonance because you're running this sophisticated operating software on a very slow computer. This is where shadow work is so crucial. This change is a frequency migration. That's why we clear as many patterns as possible out of your body. I've also seen clients who regress because even if I blast them with high frequencies to clear patterns in their body, they have not yet developed the embodiment that is required for this. They can't hold the frequency. However, some people who have been doing shadow work, who have really attuned themselves to this thermostat of new level of containment of this money, they're able to hold this money. They can crystallize it and new opportunities come to them. That's why they get like 20K in just a week or 12K, 7K in 24 to 48 hours. Because once we really start clearing these patterns in your body, the field really delivers super fast. And it's kind of like we're sending an order to the kitchen, and there is no lag time because we've compressed time and space. Imagine yourself being in spiritual Olympics. If you really want that dream life, you will do whatever it takes. If you're not failing enough, then you're not trying hard enough. You have to train your mind, body, and soul. And this is why I say entrepreneurship, business is an inner work. This is self mastery. True wealth that lasts is almost always built slowly. Power law structures. This is done through ownership, compounding. You have equity in your business, surviving a few punches to the face, not the bullshit industrial complex where I'll sell you a course on how to sell a course. Like, does that even make any sense? Because if you're doing the same thing that everyone else is doing, you're going to get the same result. And if getting rich quick truly worked for everyone, then all of us will be rich. But that's not really the case. Real value is regenerative, it is not extractive. It produces more of itself over time, kind of like land, right? Fertile land, refined skill, knowledge that only you aligned action. And so I'm going to share with you some advanced world building tricks. Imagining a blank wall, there are things almost no one online talks about because it requires a certain gnosis and coherence, intelligence to even make sense. And so I'll try and give them to you in a way that your mind can understand and your nervous system can metabolize this. When we're stepping into a new identity, it's not about imagining a better version of yourself. It is about shifting the informational state that your body uses to predict reality. You're not changing who you are changing the pattern your system references as truth. Okay, here is what actually happens at the advanced level. You're going to be dealing a lot about physics and quantum physics because when you take on a new identity, the brain stops relying on past memories as the organizing map and starts relying on possibility fields. The quantum part is simple. The nervous system only sees what is already prepared to regulate. Okay. If a future version of you holds a higher coherence, your cells must learn how to hold the signal without collapsing back into your old state. Identity is not really psychological, it is bioinformational. This is why somatic and what I do, quantum psychosomatic, it really goes into the deeper layers of your cells. So, the practical act is this: you bring your future self into the present. You can visualize your future self, By training your nervous system to feel safe in the frequency of the new pattern before your external world reflects it. It always starts inside out, not outside in. Okay, most people get this backwards. They wait for the external world to validate the shift. That keeps them stuck in the old rendering. What you do instead is create micro moments of embodied coherence. You feel safe within yourself, within your body. You feel this frequency of this new world with the identity you are calling in. Your nervous system must experience, even for a brief moment, the safety of being that version, not the excitement, the safety. So you can sit in Four Seasons Hotel or Waldorf Astoria and buy as much coffee as you want. Okay, you can envision yourself being there, but if your body does not feel safe, it's not going to land. It's all external. It's like a facade. So that's why we go deep down cellular. If you really want to make that life stick to you, once it feels safe there, it begins reorganizing your perception to match it. There is also another thing that no one talks about. That's why manifestations don't work for a lot of people, because limiting beliefs are not beliefs. They are frozen prediction loops in your limbic system. You cannot think your way out of them. You have to interrupt these loops. These are like old algorithms of your brain, right? To process it by giving the body a contradictory experience that is small enough not to overwhelm it, yet strong enough to create a new reference point. This is what I do with my clients. For example, if the belief is that you are unsupported, you feel unworthy, you do not rewrite that belief. You give your body an experience of support so subtle and immediate that it cannot deny it. So a lot of times my clients, they feel grounded after because they can sense what a coherent field feels like. I'm creating a new reference point and raising their standards or baseline. So the nervous system will update instantly when it receives this sensory proof. So essentially, like you're mirroring also my code. The mind only updates when the body has already shifted. This is quite advanced spirituality, but this is the easier way than grinding and burning yourself out, okay? This is all a simulation. We can hack the simulation. This is how it should be originally. Quantum mechanics actually support this. A system will not collapse into a new state until the internal observer, which is in our case is the embodied awareness, shifts its expectation. So we have to kind of expect this reality. Awareness is the gatekeeper of probability. Regulation is the stabilizer, and your identity is the final expression. There's a lot of relays that happen. So the advanced protocol looks like this. You sense this new future identity you're moving into. You feel that place in your body that if you have any restriction, right? Like where is this tightness? Where are the blocks? You give that place a lived sensory proof of safety, then that resistance will soften. The field around you updates without force. You become compatible with a timeline that you've previously lived outside your range. We've had multiple lifetimes here already. You've experienced what being wealthy already is. When your body becomes compatible, that simulation does the rest. And so when I'm clearing patterns at the psychosomatic and quantum level, I'm not creating money. I am removing the distortion that prevented the harmonic exchange from moving through their system. So what looks like $20,000 or $12,000 arriving 48 hours is not a manifestation trick. It is because they can hold the resonance, the body becoming transparent enough to coherence to move through without obstruction. They have good flow in their body. People collapse into scarcity because their nervous system cannot metabolize the frequency of receiving. There is still a lot of doubt, unworthiness, visibility patterns. The moment that those distortion clears, the field reorganizes itself around this new level of coherence. Money is simply the visible ripple of that shift, nothing more. It is a material expression of a deeper internal alignment. What my clients experience is not quick cash, it's just rapid recalibration. The speed has nothing to do with techniques, it comes from their way. Their identity stops referencing from the old prediction loops, and it essentially begins referencing the expanded field that I help them inhabit, which they already have a memory of this in their body. Once their internal architecture updates, the simulation responds as if it has already been waiting because it's already there, ready for them. It's ripe. I'm not teaching people to manifest. I am teaching their bodies how to become compatible with a version of themselves that already holds the exchange that they're seeking. If you can see online, there is a lot of fake manifestation, woo woo stuff out there. But if you ask them how it works, they can't even explain it. What I'm teaching you is to hold resonance of embodied truth and alignment to your highest expression. This is clean money. This is clean energy. This is why I'm trying to find more of these coherent leaders, because this is your divine commission, as this is my commission. Like, you also have your own divine commission that you're supposed to be fulfilling in this lifetime. And I know that you can do it because if you're listening to my podcast, you're in my field, like that means you're ready to be activated. I'm not teaching people to chase outcomes. I'm teaching you to become congruent with the truth that your field already carries. And this is why my work cuts through the noise. It's not just manifestation culture, it is resonance culture. It is the return to integrity inside the body where the nervous system and the quantum field stops arguing with each other. Most of what people call manifestation is actually a bypass. It is a desired layer on top of dysregulation. It creates more pressure, not creation. And so, when the body is out of sync with the identity it is reaching for, the field cannot respond cleanly. It will produce more distortion, more scarcity, more hustle, or the illusion of this quick abundance that drains just as fast. And your resonance, your frequency cannot lie. It's who you are. Like, people can see you, people will feel who you are as a person. I'm dismantling this paradigm because I'm teaching leaders how to hold a frequency that does not leak. That is why their exchange arrives in a way that feels clean. They feel coherent. They feel more at ease with their business because a lot of businesses are not peaceful. It comes through truth rather than extraction. This is what I mean when I talk about dissolving dark money, because there's clean money, there's dark money. We are now watching the collapse of old architecture that relied on debt, survival codes, fragmentation, counterfeit power. That's not real power. My field is calibrated to work with leaders who are already vibrating near coherence but have not yet stabilized yet in their body. They feel this mission, commission, but not landed. Like, I am the bridge for them. I help them collapse the noise so their original design can return to the surface. Like, I do the background energetic work while you're the front desk. You can perform what you came here to do, and I'm just backing you energetically. This is not a mission built from ambition. Like, this is a soul contract. It is a soul technology remembering itself. The leaders that I'm calling in are the ones I feel in the back of my field. I feel them like around me already, and they're looking, scoping around because they already carry that signature. They just can't articulate it yet. They have already been activated by the global dissolving of old wealth. They are in the in between. They're not sure, like, what is the next step? They're looking for signs. They're no longer compatible with the dark exchange, but not yet stable in the crystalline flow. And this is where we have to be heart based and come into this with so much integrity because this is power given to you by source. And you have to be held responsible for this power. My work is the tuning fork that helps them anchor. The leaders I'm calling are not chasing confidence, they are trust embodied. Trust as this cellular knowing rather than a performance. Like their field does not need to puff up itself, it just rests, grounds, and listens. And because of that, its presence itself holds charge. Like real authority is who you are. The whole room just reorganizes around you. That is what authority is, not the performance type. They can manifest things so quickly that it lands and they can hold it. I open the door, you receive it. The ones who don't belong to my work are the ones who are still pretending. Deep down, they're very insecure and paint it with more strategy and wrap it with better branding, manipulation, and call it power. It's extractive and you will just appear more fake. We call those pig with a lipstick. And that scarcity frequency still reeks. It is the smell of trash that has not been taken out for years. It smells like shame. It smells like I don't belong here. It smells like I'm not worthy. It tries to hide all of this unclosed loops, the wound driven hunger, the terrified push to be recognized. Like you are somebody who has so much to prove. You're trying so hard. Real wealth is relaxed. It is in flow. It doesn't try hard. So the body always betrays it. Scarcity leaks through micro expression, decisions, tone, even the rhythm of their breath. And that's why I'm here to help you expand because I know that you have something so rare that no one else has. I am calibrated for the ones who have already outgrown that. And they might still have a little bit of remnants of scarcity, but they no longer identify themselves with it. My 300 an hour is just chunk change for them because they know that their investment will yield more. Like they want my wisdom, they want my information. I have a lot of social proof to back that up. And my private clients pay me $5,000 a month to put me on their retainer because business has energetics too. Your business has an architecture also. And a business is kind of like a human being. So the more we can align yourself to your business, then more sales come to you. People that operate at that level, they can see it, they can name it. They refuse to perform, they refuse to shrink themselves small. They want to go big. They are tired of holding up the mask. So they can shift so fast because they have mastered their self belief and they trust themselves. Now their system longs for coherence and more validation. Now let's talk about dark money. Dark money is not about morality, it is about dysregulated exchange. When someone operates from performance, their nervous system is in constant micro survival loop. They attract resources, then lose them. They might gain new friends, but can't keep them. They build structures that collapse because the architecture was anchored in fear. No amount of external abundance can override an internal mismatch. Very important. Write that down. Okay. No amount of external abundance can override an internal mismatch. That is why scarcity peeks through even when the bank account looks full. Even if you're making 6 figures, 7 figures, whatever it is, if you have that scarcity It is very insidious and it's a sticky pattern to get rid of. So let me give you an example, okay? A lot of VCs actually look at the captain of the ship, the founder. A venture capitalist, whether they realize it or not, is reading the field of the captain, not the blueprint of the ship. They track coherence, they track inner regulation, they track whether the person of the helm can hold a complex timeline without fracturing. A product can evolve, a market can shift, a strategy can be rebuilt overnight. But the captain's nervous system, the captain's identity architecture, the captain's coherence, that is the true asset. What they are really assessing is this: can this person remain stable inside uncertainty? Can they shift states without unnecessary contraction? Can they complete loops quickly rather than spiraling into self doubt? Can they hold a vision without collapsing into survival mode when things start falling apart? Can they metabolize pressure without leaking into the field? A product cannot do that. Only a human can. This is why leaders with unresolved scarcity patterns, unclosed loops, and identity fragmentation cannot secure long term backing, even if the product is brilliant. Investors sense the instability beneath the surface. They feel when someone is still performing confidence instead of being confident. They feel when the ship looks polished, but the captain is kind of scared underneath. And you will just know this intuitively. A lot of these really high level people, like they're extremely intuitive. They use their soft skills more. This is why I work at the level of identity, coherence, and psychosomatic clarity, because when the captain is stable, the simulation bends around them. Opportunities just lines up, partners respond, funding becomes natural. The timeline becomes cooperative. Venture capitalists are not choosing a product, they are choosing a field they trust their energy. Let me ground this and give you this image. Just like in Titanic, most look at Titanic as a tragedy, a ship that hit this iceberg. Titanic is the story of the vessel that was just top tier. It was just incredible ship. It had all the bells and whistles, yet carrying structural vulnerabilities that no one wanted to acknowledge. So the ship looked like it was invincible. The captain looked certain. And then the world was very impressed of what the ship looked like. But the internal architecture could not withstand the reality it sailed into. This is what I'm pointing to. Investors, leaders, clients, the field itself, they're not looking for the biggest ship. They're looking for the captain who does not repeat the Titanic pattern, the captain who does not rely on image, performance, or polished coherence. They're looking for somebody who can sense the iceberg before the world sees it, the one who can feel the shifts in the water long before the surface changes. People follow the easiest person to follow. Titanic failed because the leadership ignored these subtle signs. It failed because the ego dismissed the wisdom of the body. It failed because the identity of the ship was built on invulnerability, not coherence. And most leaders today are still operating like Titanic captains. They're shiny, impressive, overconfident. So it's all image, no regulation. And so I'm calling in the ones who know that true power is attunement, not bravado. They can feel the ocean, they're intuitive, they've really cultivated their soft skills. They can feel the feel. They're kind of like a hawk, they're just ready to dive in once they know the water is warm enough. They can feel the pressure waves of the simulation changing. They adjust before collision becomes inevitable. My work is not about building unsinkable ships, it is about building leaders who no longer need that illusion. Like, how do you even miss an iceberg when the ocean is so big? You miss an iceberg the same way a human misses truth that is standing right in front of them. Not because it's invisible, because the internal architecture is not calibrated to perceive it. So even if it's very obvious, you're not going to see it. You're not going to notice it because you don't have the awareness. So the ocean is so vast, yet the perception is so narrow. When the captain's nervous system is locked into a particular expectation, when the mind is convinced of invincibility, it stops scanning. When identity is built on speed and accomplishment, it stops listening to the current beneath the surface. We're getting real deep here, okay? An iceberg is not missed because of its size. It is missed because of the frequency of the observer. You only perceive what your system is prepared to regulate. Anything that threatens the current identity gets edited out, muted, or minimized. Titanic did not hit an iceberg because the ocean was dangerous. Titanic hit an iceberg because the leadership could not feel the field. They were moving too fast to sense the subtle shift in the water. They were operating from certainty, not coherence. This is the same reason people miss the signs that their own structure is about to crack. It's also called the sunk cost fallacy. They sail forward with momentum, with performance, with belief in their own mastery that they ignore the quiet signals in their chest, the tightening in their gut, the subtle pressure in the back of their mind. The signals are the inner icebergs, right? And then they question like why their life is falling apart. Not dangerous, just unacknowledged. You do not miss realities because they are hidden. You miss them because your field is tuned to what you want to see, not what is actually there. You lack awareness. I see these patterns in others because my nervous system is sensitive enough to register the shifts that most people override. So I can feel the constrictions, the distortions, the micro tensions that reveal where someone is about to collide with their own unprocessed truth. They're about to hit an iceberg. So I'm your co-captain telling you, hey, steer left. And so when it comes to making money, just like in trading, finance, entrepreneurship, these are not actually about money. They're about state regulation, perception, and identity integrity. When your emotions are not anchored, the simulation renders distorted frames. You see threats where there are none, and then you chase highs that are not real. You interpret data through the filter of your own dysregulation. This is why a lot of people get this wrong. They're not thinking, but they're reacting. The real traders, the real surgeons, the real operators of this reality, they do not turn off emotions. They separate sensation from identity. They can feel the signal versus the noise, but they don't let the signal decide who they are. When the amygdala takes control, the world shrinks. The brain does not create. You're just in fight or flight. It repeats, it reaches for the only solutions it has stored in its oldest archive. That is why people panic, justify, double down, or spiral. The nervous system is trying to survive, not to see clearly. It's the same mechanics across spirituality, trading, leadership, wealth, and self-worth. They're all one system. They live in the same architecture of the body. So what I'm saying is that a human cannot hold complexity if their emotional state is unstable. A human cannot learn when their system is hijacked. A human cannot perceive opportunity when pride and shame are running the show. A human cannot take intentional risk when they are drowning in their own unregulated survival loops. You're still swimming in your generalized uselessness. The goal is not emotional numbness, the goal is emotional neutrality. Neutrality is what gives you access to time, precision, and discernment. And just like you're cooking mashed potatoes, right? Anyone can follow a recipe. Anyone can copy another trader, another coach, another investor, another creator, another pathway. But until they understand heat, fat, temperature, patience, pressure, chemistry, timing, you have all of these ingredients there, you will never learn how to cook. You will only imitate. You're like a line cook versus a Michelin star chef. Like, there is a big difference. A Michelin star chef is very skilled in what they do. They understand technique, it knows refinement, it understands heat, it understands these ingredients. In finance, the equivalent of heat is your emotional state. The equivalent of fat is your risk tolerance. The equivalent of temperature is your nervous system regulation. The equivalent of seasoning is your identity awareness. The equivalent of timing is mental presence. A real creator, trader, investor is a chef. They do not follow a recipe, they follow sensation. They know what they like. Acknowledging where someone's state emotionally can be a very huge barrier to their education. So, just like my second mentor, he threw me into the deep waters out to the piranhas. It was a finance boot camp. He was the CEO of UPS, and his business was already worth 20 million and showed me behind the scenes. And luckily, my very first mentor, who was a major in the army, he was a chief of hospital, made sure that I knew leadership. Like, I understand how to run groups. We were already running like a battalion in our hospital. So my second mentor already recognized the competence and confidence in me. And my soft skill, of course, is top notch. It's how I can get mentors that give me shortcut, but you got to back it up with, again, competence and knowledge and your ability to be fearless and fast. One trait that they all have is do it now. Like, if you have a task, if there's something in front of you, you got to act quick. Being around men like this, it is like climbing uphill battle, but it's all worth it because it's training you to really be tough. And so he wasn't trying to teach me information, he was training my nervous system to hold intensity without collapsing. He was showing me the shadows so I could build my discernment and learned humility because humiliation would have destroyed me. I learned discipline because chaos would have eaten me alive. It's like that movie Karate Kid, and your sensei is just giving you so much grief, but in the end it's like, okay, this is worth it. Like, I see why you did that. People don't fail because they lack intelligence. They fail because they lack internal stability. They fail because their body cannot hold the emotional heat required for precision. They fail because their pride refuses to release the illusion of control. Unless you're put into repeated pressure, your risk tolerance is getting heightened and heightened, it's going to be hard to move through different layers of expansion. So do things that really scare you. And the real work that I'm trying to communicate is that I teach people how to regulate your internal world so that you can perceive reality without distortion. I teach you how to detach identity from outcome so that you can start operating from clarity, how to build internal structure so that you can hold this rapidly shifting conditions without falling apart. Because what we're seeing now in our objective reality, it's only going to get faster and crazier. So our body needs to be able to move with the times to become the kind of person who does not blow up their account or their relationship or their life simply because their nervous system went offline and you're in your fawn state and you don't know how to snap back out of your fawn state or your freeze state. Time becomes precious because clarity is expensive. Clarity requires a regulated system. A regulated system requires consistent practice, and consistent practice requires intention, not entitlement. I was humbled so many times, but through that, you become neutral. The leaders meant to work with me are the ones who have already reached the limit of performance based abundance. They no longer want a high performing persona. They actually want to do less and slow down, more intentional, but still big. They want coherent identity. They want truth. They want agility, refinement. They know that they are meant to build something so great that they will be remembered. It's just what my field does. And if you want true freedom and liberation, true sovereignty is not something that is just handed to you. It is forged through the discipline of doing the work that a lot of most people avoid. Every time that you choose the harder path of self examination over comfortable deception, every time you face your shadows instead of projecting them, or choosing growth over stagnation, you're earning degrees of freedom. You take full accountability of yourself. They want their field to be clean enough that their presence creates harmony rather than extraction. I'm not here to fix people's scarcity or coddle you. I'm here to awaken the parts of you that has never been touched by scarcity in the first place. That identity sits beneath the loops, beneath the patterns of what your parents might have conditioned you or society conditioned you. And when you start to remember it, once you touch it, everything just reorganizes. Competence is the ability to shift cleanly, effortlessly, less friction. And that comes from confidence, coherence, and without getting bogged down by limiting beliefs. Competence is not a skill, it is adaptability. It is your ability to shift states without residue. It is your art of transitioning from one frequency to another without the drag of unfinished patterns. That kind of movement is only possible when the nervous system is coherent enough to update its prediction maps without fighting the shift. Our brain, again, has so many back doors. I like using other back doors of our brain, okay? I'm giving you a new frame of ways of seeing the world. Most people try to change their lives through force or repetition, hustling harder. I do it through resonance, and that is why my initiations feel effortless. I tune them, my field carries a stabilizing code that dissolves friction, and that moment someone enters my space, I shift their set point by helping their body remember a cleaner pattern. This is what I'm good at, and I know my shit. I want to create titans. I want to create new leaders, clean ones. Like this power has to be held responsibly. We have never seen power like this before with utmost reverence. So that's why this task is so important. Like, I would die for this shit, okay? Confidence in my world is not bravado, it is the absence of internal contradiction. It is the state where the body and mind and the field are no longer competing. Your internal world matches your outside world. And when that alignment is present, when it lands in your body, competence becomes natural. You can move quickly because nothing inside you pulls in the opposite direction. Your nervous system is trained like an athlete. Like, you are top tier athletes of life. This is what most don't understand. Limiting beliefs do not slow people down because they are negative thoughts. They slow people down because they create friction in their nervous system. They create these micro contractions. These contractions create hesitations, and hesitations disrupt coherence. And once coherence breaks, the shift takes effort instead of flowing on its own. The laws of physics govern this reality, subjective and objective reality. I initiate people because my field is built like an attunement chamber. I don't push them, but I open this field and their system that reorganizes itself to match. The coherence I hold is stronger than the distortion they carry, so their body recognizes truth before their mind can even understand it. This is why competent people and the ones that can shift quickly and cleanly are drawn to me, because their system recognizes that I'm not teaching them another method. I am handing them a mirror that shows them who they are when they are not fragmented. When we are in sessions, the sensation moves through my own body. Sometimes there's tightness, constrictions. I feel where the deeper patterns are, fears, grief. I can get the full download and the timelines where there's distortions. And from there, I can tweak, release any stagnancy. It's kind of like a car tune up. There's a difference between understanding your brain and knowing the plumbing and hydraulics of energy. Sometimes you also feel stuck because you're dealing with karma, soul contracts. The constriction I feel is not me taking on their patterns. It is my system registering the tension that their body has not yet learned to metabolize. I sense it because I carry a high level of somatic attunement. I do my embodiment practices like it's my job. Like I do it all day, every day. I am reflecting the tension so that their own intelligence can also address it. A constriction is a signal mismatch. It is the moment when your stated identity and your embodied identity, who you are not aligned. So my field then picks up this friction and translate it into sensation. So we ping each other and mirror each other these patterns. So I'm being the awareness, observing a shadow pattern so that you can recognize and clear it in your field. When I feel that constriction, I'm sensing a prediction loop in your nervous system that has not completed. It could be a memory, a belief, an anticipatory fear, and we can close those loops or completely delete it in your nervous system or memory bank. You can do so much with your brain. I've programmed people creating their wealth as their default. The constriction is not the problem, it is the doorway. I'm skilled at holding the resonance that their system process what it could not process alone. So I hold a stable frequency so their own coherence can rise and meet it. The release that follows after is their doing, not mine. So when I feel a constriction in their body, a constriction is not, again, an obstacle. It is a compression of energy that contains information. When I feel it, you're feeling the exact place where their identity is still maintaining an older template. My presence, me being there with them one on one, or if they're in my masterclass, my presence gives them a system permission to unwind that compression without collapsing. And so that's why my clients can shift cleanly, not because I push them, but because I offer the stability in their system that needs to complete the loop. I've also seen people who have a lot of cognitive dissonance. And I think cognitive dissonance comes from trauma, childhood abuse, whatever the circumstances. This does not create anxiety and depression in a clinical sense, but it creates inner conflict, and that conflict strains the nervous system until it cannot hold its own center anymore. So they're more prone to suggestibility. When people carry two truths, they're not sure which one to decide. There's like this and that. It cannot coexist inside the same identity because your brain has to pick one. The nervous system begins to split and it causes a lot of inaction. One part tries to maintain the old pattern and another part reaches for the expanded one. So it creates this tug of war, kind of push and pull friction inside the body. Friction becomes pressure and pressure becomes overwhelm. Overwhelm becomes collapse. So you're just sitting there and you're like, I don't know what to do. People call that collapse anxiety or depression. But at the deeper layer, it is the cost of maintaining a self that is no longer true. Cognitive dissonance is simply the signal that your inner architecture is outdated, that you need to stretch your awareness, right? And books are really great with this. Your system is trying to operate two different timelines at once. One is familiar but constricted, and the other is authentic but terrifying because the body does not yet know how to regulate it. This is where we stretch you so that you can hold and contain this new energy. Anxiety is the sensation of holding on to the old self while the new self pushes from underneath. Depression is the shutdown that happens when your system cannot reconcile the gap. So I help my clients collapse the false identity so the tension stops. And once this internal contradiction starts to dissolve, their nervous system no longer needs to split. Their energy starts to return, their sense of reality, they have more clarity, their capacity expands. Having cognitive dissonance is like the soul is pulling someone into a version of themselves that their mind has not accepted yet. And what I feel in their constriction is the exact point where these two identities are fighting for dominance. So we got to release these constrictions. The real difficulty is knowing what you want because the simulation will render these frames for you. This is all projected reality, right? In a simulated field, desire does not arise in a vacuum. The environment mirrors your internal state so precisely that the moment your frequency shifts, the simulation begins offering new frames, new possibilities, new versions of you, new people in your life. They can make it difficult to distinguish what you truly want from what the field is presenting as an available timeline. The simulation does not show you what you want, it shows you what you are currently capable with. So every frame rendered around you is a reflection of your embodied state, not your highest intention. So when you evolve, the field begins surfacing new possibilities and it can feel like confusion. But it's not confusion, it's you recalibrating. The frames are not instructions, but they're kind of like these diagnostic tools. And your surroundings will start giving you hints that you are shifting. Wanting is not about choosing an external frame. Wanting is about you sensing which version of you and your nervous system can stabilize without distortion. So, the true want is the timeline of your body that recognizes it as home. Like, this will be your new home. It's like you're moving to a new house, you're upgrading your house, right? Even it feels larger than your current reality. It's almost like you got this brand new house, really big house, and you start moving your things. Like you know what it looks like. It's taking you a little bit longer to move all of your stuff. Sometimes you got to go to the dumpster and throw away things that you don't actually need anymore to move into this bigger, much more beautiful house. New house has a new aesthetic. So the work is not to force clarity, the work is to feel which frames your system can hold without contracting. If this desire that you have expands you, it feels very expansive in your body, it softens your chest, then that is a true want. If a desire creates more pressure, tightness, or almost like this frantic longing, that is a simulation artifact. It is an echo of the identity that you've already grown. So throw those out, go to the dumpster, and take those patterns away from your body because you're moving to your brand new house. So the simulation renders new possibilities, and you choose through resonance. Your knowing does not come from the mind, it comes from the place in you that does not contract when you step into your future self. You're upgrading yourself, you're upgrading your wealth thermostat. That part never lies. It is the compass that the simulation cannot override. So, yeah, this is quantum psychosomatic. I just explained world building to you. I honestly don't know anyone else, maybe one, two people I know that does this. It's trial and error with my life. I know that there was an easier way to make money and that this is all imaginary. This is all a simulation. So I just have special, unique codes that I've collected throughout my lifetime. This is my own gnosis. I know how to collapse heaps and heaps of patterns all at once. It takes mastery, it takes coherence, and a lot of anchoring to be able to tune without collapsing. Precision, clarity, clean energy. This is what I'm all about. This is a bit longer than I expected. I get so hyped when I'm talking about these things. This is what advanced spirituality is, and I am determined to take more people to the finish line. I have my Fire Series masterclass where I'm diving deep into patterns, and I have lots of materials there that can help you master frequency, because we're stepping into a world that is gonna be about frequency and resonance. Reality right now is breaking down. So these are new earth blueprints. I have one-on-one sessions, meditations on my shop. Make sure to follow my Substack. That is where I share a lot of my codes necessary for this great awakening ascension in this lifetime. So take advantage of it. You want to be ahead of everyone. You want to master frequency already. And if you don't take action, you will be the exit liquidity. The lesson here is that we create our own realities. Money is a lever, not a ladder to nirvana. It just buys calm, buffers stress, buys back time and choice, all proven to dial down our daily stress. But past security, it amplifies what you already truly value. If you value relationships, that is your North Star, spend time on them. If freedom, you buy autopilot for the grind. The unhappy minority, that's a signal to dig deeper. Therapy or purpose, not be a cog in the machine. Logically prioritize income until you feel safe, then pivot into meaning. Philosophically, wealth is external, virtue is internal, but use the external to fortify the internal. That is all. Namaste. I love you, and I'll see you next time.